Josh watched from the terminal as a woman boarded a private jet. His heart stopped. It was Emma, the woman he had abandoned when she said she was pregnant. But now she wore designer clothes, and 4 children followed her onto the jet. 4 identical children. They turned and waved excitedly at the airport. Josh's blood ran cold. Those faces. His face. 4 times. "Whose plane is that?" he asked an attendant. "That belongs to Emma Williams, sir, the tech billionaire." On the jet, one child pressed against the window, waving right at him. "Mommy, that man looks just like us." But before we dive into the full story, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Now, subscribe to the channel and let's get started. The phone buzzed on the marble nightstand, its sound sharp and empty in the huge room. Josh Carter opened his eyes. He did not reach for the phone. He stared at the high ceiling, white and smooth and very far away. The bed was big enough for 5 people. He was the only person in it. He had been the only person in it for 5 years. Finally, he moved. He walked across the cold floor to the window. He pulled back a curtain. The city of New York was spread out below him, a forest of glass and steel. He owned a piece of almost all of it. He felt nothing. His housekeeper, Maria, had left his breakfast on the table in the dining room. The room was so long he could barely see the other end. There was 1 plate, 1 cup, 1 set of silverware. "Good morning, Mr. Carter," Maria said softly, coming in to pour his coffee. "Morning," he said, not looking up from the screen of his phone. Numbers moved across it. Green numbers, good numbers. He ate alone. He listened to the sound of his own knife on the plate. It was the only sound. An hour later, his driver, Henry, held the door of the black car open for him. "The office, Mr. Carter." "The office," Josh said. The car moved through the streets without a sound. Josh looked at the people walking. They were in couples, in groups, talking. He could not hear them. He felt separate from them, above them in every way. His office was on the top floor of a tall building. His assistant, Chloe, smiled at him. "Mr. Reeves is already in the conference room. The papers are ready." Josh nodded and walked past her. The conference room had a table as long as a swimming pool. Only 2 chairs were occupied. His partner, Daniel Reeves, sat with his feet up on the table. A lawyer Josh did not know sat straight in the next chair. "Joshua," Daniel said, not moving his feet, "you look like you slept in a museum. All that space and silence." "I slept fine," Josh said, and sitting down. He looked at the lawyer. "Talk." The lawyer talked for 20 minutes. He used many big words about money and companies joining together. Josh heard the final number. It was a very, very large number. He liked the number. "Good," Josh said when the lawyer finished. "Make it happen." The lawyer gathered his papers and left quickly. Daniel put his feet down on the floor. "Another big deal," Daniel said. "Another mountain of money." "Does it feel different from the last mountain of money?" "It feels efficient," Josh said. "That's what matters." Daniel shook his head slowly. He had a kind face, but his eyes were sharp. "You know, most people celebrate these things. They go out. They have a drink. They call someone they love. Emotions are bad for business," Josh said, a line he said often. "Is that why you ended things with that art gallery woman last night?" "Too much emotion?" Daniel asked. Josh paused. He had forgotten about the woman from the art gallery. Her name was maybe Stephanie. They had dinner twice. Last night on the phone, she had asked if he wanted to see a new show. He had said he was very busy. He was always very busy. "It was not a good match," Josh said. "Nothing is ever a match, Josh," Daniel said softly. You keep the game at a distance, so you never have to step onto the field. I don't like sports analogies, Josh said, standing up. He walked to the window. I like deals. I like winning. This, he said, pointing at the city, is my field, and I am always winning. Daniel stood up too. He walked to the door. Someday, you're going to look up from your winning and realize the stadium is completely empty. No one is cheering. After Daniel left, Josh sat at his desk. He signed papers without reading the words. His signature was worth more than most people made in a lifetime. He felt a hollow space in his chest. He told himself it was just hunger. A memory flashed in his mind. It was not welcome. 5 years ago. A small apartment, not like his. It was warm. It was messy. There were books on the floor. A woman with kind eyes and messy brown hair was looking at him. Her name was Emma. Emma Williams. Her hands were shaking. "Josh," she said, "I'm pregnant." He remembered the feeling. It was not happiness. It was a cold, white fear. It felt like falling. It felt like the walls of a small, poor house closing in. It felt like his mother's tired face when he was a boy. He did not touch her. He opened his briefcase. He took out a thick envelope. He put it on the table. "This should help," he said. His voice was a stranger's voice. "I don't want your money, Josh," she whispered. "I want you. I want us." "I can't," he said. And he walked out. He never looked back. He deleted her number. He threw away the few pictures he had. He told himself it was the only smart choice. He built his life higher and higher, so he would never have to feel that fear again. Josh shook his head hard. He pushed the memory away. It was old news. It was a business decision from long ago. He had chosen his path. He looked at his watch. He had a jet to catch. The JFK Airport private terminal was quiet. It smelled of expensive leather and clean floors. Josh sat in a deep chair, checking his phone. His jet was being prepared. He was flying to Chicago for another meeting about another large number. He was impatient. He looked out the large window at the private tarmac. Smaller jets came and went. Then, a larger, newer, sleeker jet taxied to a stop close to the window. It was beautiful and powerful. He felt a flicker of want. He would ask his assistant about the model later. The jet's door opened and stairs unfolded. A woman walked out of the terminal building below and began to climb the stairs. She wore a simple, elegant coat. Her hair was up. She walked with a straight back and a calm purpose. She did not look around. She knew where she was going. Something about the way she moved made Josh's breath catch. He leaned forward, squinting. It was Emma. But it was not the Emma from his memory. That Emma was soft, sometimes unsure. This woman was made of steel and confidence. This was a woman who commanded rooms, who owned the ground she walked on. She looked like she had built something. She looked like she had won. Before the shock could fully hit him, he saw the children. 4 small children, 2 girls and 2 boys, followed her up the stairs. They were little, maybe 4 years old. They were bundled in cute winter coats. They were laughing about something. One of the boys was hopping up the steps. One of the girls held the hand of a uniformed flight attendant, chatting away. They reached the top of the stairs. As they turned to go into the jet, they faced the terminal window. Josh felt the world drop out from under his feet. The 4 little faces. They were all different, but they were all the same. They were his face. His own eyes looked back at him 4 times over. His chin. His smile on the laughing girl. It was like looking at his own childhood pictures, but there were 4 of them. Quadruplets. His head buzzed. His heart pounded in his ears so loud he could not hear the quiet lounge music. His hands turned cold. She had been pregnant with 4 babies. 4. And he had given her an envelope of cash and walked away. He stood up. His legs were weak. He stumbled to the window, pressing his hands against the cool glass. The children disappeared into the jet. The flight attendant smiled and followed them in. "No," he whispered. The word had no sound. He turned, frantic. A young airport employee in a neat suit was walking by, carrying a tablet. "You," Josh said, his voice too loud, cracking. He pointed a shaking finger at the beautiful jet. "That jet! Who does that belong to? Who is that woman?" The employee blinked, surprised by the intensity. He looked at the jet, then down at his tablet. He tapped the screen. "That is the Gulfstream G700, the employee said politely. "It is registered to Etheltech Holdings. The passenger is the founder and CEO, Mr. Well, actually, it's Ms. Emma Williams." The name was a physical blow. "Emma Williams," Josh repeated, the words dry in his mouth. "Yes, sir," the employee said, a note of pride in his voice. "She's one of the biggest names in tech. A real success story. Started from nothing, they say." Started from nothing. The words echoed. He had been her nothing. The moment he left was the nothing she had started from. The jet's door began to close, the stairs folded back, the engines whined to a higher pitch. Josh stood frozen, watching. As the jet started to slowly move away from the window, a small face appeared at one of the round windows. It was one of the boys. He had his hands pressed against the glass. His curious eyes scanned the terminal. They landed on Josh. The boy's gaze held his. There was no smile, just a child's open staring. Then, slowly, the little boy lifted one hand. He waved, a small, simple wave goodbye. Josh could not move. He could not breathe. He could not wave back. The jet turned and began to taxi toward the runway. In less than a minute, it was just a shape in the distance. Then it was gone. Josh Carter stood alone in the silent, perfect lounge. The hollow space inside him was not empty anymore. It was now filled with 4 tiny, identical ghosts, and it was crushing him from the inside out. The perfect, empty life he had built was now just broken glass on a cold, hard floor. The black car felt like a prison. Josh sat in the back seat, his hands gripping his knees. He could not unsee it. The 4 small faces, the wave, the look in the boy's eyes, a look of simple curiosity, not knowing the man at the window was his father. A father who did not know he existed. "Home, Mr. Carter?" Henry asked from the driver's seat, his eyes meeting Josh's in the rearview mirror. "No," Josh said, his voice rough. "The office. No, the apartment. Just drive." Henry nodded and pulled the car into the endless stream of traffic leaving the airport. Josh stared out the window, but saw nothing. His mind was a roaring static of numbers. 4 children, 5 years, 1 terrible choice. He did not go to his office. He went straight up to his penthouse. The silence of it screamed at him. He walked to the wet bar and poured a glass of whiskey. He drank it in one burning gulp. It did nothing. He began to pace. The vast living room was not big enough to contain his panic. The image of Emma, so confident and calm, climbing those stairs, replayed over and over. He saw the envelope of cash on her small kitchen table. He heard his own cold voice. Asterisk. This should help. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out. It was Chloe, his assistant. "Mr. Carter, your 3 o'clock is here for the Chicago follow-up. Should I send them up to the conference room?" Chicago. The meeting. The deal. It was dust. It was nothing. "Cancel it," Josh said. "Cancel?" Chloe's voice was carefully neutral. "Shall I reschedule for—" "Cancel everything," Josh interrupted. "For today, for tomorrow. Clear my calendar until I say otherwise." There was a brief, stunned silence on the line. In 5 years, Josh Carter had never cleared his calendar. "I understand, sir. Is everything all right?" "No," Josh said, and he ended the call. He threw the phone onto a sofa. It bounced off and landed on the floor. He did not pick it up. He stood in the middle of the empty room, breathing hard. He needed to know. He needed to see. He went to his study and woke his computer. His fingers, usually so sure and fast on the keyboard, trembled. He typed a name into the search bar. *Emma Williams. The screen filled with results. He clicked the first link. It was a business news website. There was a picture of her. It was the Emma from the airport, her hair down now, smiling a polite, powerful smile. The headline read, "From solo mom to software sovereign, Emma Williams's Etheltech disrupts the market." He scrolled, his eyes racing over the words. Founded 5 years ago with a seed round from angel investors. Revolutionary logistics algorithm, valued at over $3 billion. Notable for being a rare female founder in the space, who is also a single mother of quadruplets. The word quadruplets was a punch to his throat. He read it again. He opened another article. This one was from a magazine. There was a photo of Emma in a sleek office, but in the background, on a large desk, were 4 small hand-drawn pictures. The caption read, "Williams says her children are her core motivation. She often brought them to the office in their infancy." He imagined it. Emma, in some small apartment with 4 newborn babies, coding through the night, feeding, changing, working, all alone. While he was in meetings about yacht purchases and stock portfolios, a low groan escaped him. He put his head in his hands. He searched for more. He found social media profiles for Etheltech. They were professional, clean. He found a charity foundation in her name. He found a short video of her speaking at a tech conference. He clicked play. Her voice was calm and clear. "Resilience isn't just about getting back up," she was saying. "It's about building a new floor while you're still on the ground." The audience applauded. Josh turned off the video. He felt sick. He needed more than news articles. He needed facts. He picked up the landline phone on his desk. He called a number he knew by heart, a private investigator his firm used for discreet background checks. A man answered on the second ring. "Morrow." "Peter, it's Josh Carter." "Josh, long time. What do you need?" Peter Morrow's voice was always flat, always direct. "I need a deep dive on a person, everything. Financials, current location, property, daily patterns, everything." "Name?" "Emma Williams, founder of Etheltech." There was a pause on the line. "The tech billionaire? That's a very public figure, Josh. A lot of this is on the internet." "I don't want what's on the internet," Josh said, his voice tight. "I want what isn't. I want to know where she is right now. I want to know where she's going tomorrow. I want to know where her children go to school." Another, longer pause. "Her children? Josh, what is this about?" "It's personal, Peter. Just get me the information. Spare no expense. Send me everything you find as you find it." He hung up before Peter could ask more questions. For the next 2 hours, Josh paced. He tried to sit, but could not. He stood at his window, but the view he loved now seemed like a taunt. All his money, all his power, and he had been so small, so cowardly. His email pinged, then pinged again, and again. Peter was fast, Reports began to populate his screen. Legal documents, property records, flight manifests. He learned she owned a home in Pacific Heights, San Francisco. He learned she kept an apartment in Manhattan. He learned she was currently in New York for a series of meetings and a high-profile charity event. He opened the file on the charity event. It was called the Hope for Single Mothers Annual Gala. It was being held in 2 days at a massive estate in the Hamptons. Emma Williams was listed as a headline speaker and major donor. The Hamptons. He could get there. A new email arrived with the subject line, "Williams, Emma recent photo file." He opened it. There were dozens of candid shots taken by Peter's people in the last 24 hours. Emma leaving a building. Emma getting into a car. And then his heart stopped. There were pictures of the children. They were walking with a woman he didn't recognize, a nanny. They were holding hands, crossing a street. One boy was pointing at a dog. One girl was skipping. They were real. They were not just an image from an airport window. They lived and breathed and pointed at dogs. He zoomed in on each little face. Olivia, Ava, Liam, Noah. Peter's report had their names. He said each name out loud in the silent room. The sounds felt foreign on his tongue. The doorbell to his penthouse rang, a soft chime. He ignored it. It rang again, insistently. He walked over and slammed his hand on the intercom. "What? It's Daniel. Let me up, Josh. Chloe is panicking. You've canceled the world." Josh pressed the button to unlock the main entrance downstairs. A minute later, the private elevator opened and Daniel walked in. He carried a paper bag that smelled of greasy food. He stopped when he saw Josh's face. "Who died?" Daniel asked, his usual joking tone gone. "I did," Josh said quietly. He turned and walked back to his study. Daniel followed. Daniel looked at the computer screen. He saw the pictures of the children. He let out a long, slow breath. "Oh, you knew," Josh said, not looking at him. "You knew about her. From before. I knew you had a girlfriend named Emma you were serious about. I knew you ended it. You never said why. I didn't ask." Daniel put the food bag down on a pristine glass table. "I didn't know this." "4 of them, Dan." Josh's voice broke. "She had 4 babies, alone, and look at her now." He gestured helplessly at the screen, at an article about Etheltech's valuation. Daniel sat down heavily in a chair. "Okay, this is a lot. What are you doing?" He nodded at the computer. "I'm finding out." "Why?" The question was simple. It hung in the air. Josh had no good answer. "I have to see her. I have to talk to her." "No, you don't," Daniel said, his voice firm. "You want *2. There's a big difference. Josh, listen to me. You left. You ghosted her when she told you she was pregnant. You have 0 rights here, morally or, I'm guessing, legally. She built that," he pointed at the screen, "in spite of you. She doesn't owe you a conversation." "They're my children," Josh shouted, the sound raw in the quiet room. "Biologically? Sure," Daniel said, not backing down. "But in every way that matters, you're a stranger. You're the guy who made their mom's life 1,000 times harder. Barging into her life now, when she's finally thriving, is the most selfish thing you could do. And that's saying something." Josh turned away, clenching his fists. Daniel's words were like stones. "I have to explain. I have to apologize." "You think an apology covers 5 years? 4 kids?" Daniel stood up. "Your apology is for you. To make you feel better. It does nothing for her." "What am I supposed to do?" Josh whispered, staring at a photo of Liam smiling, a gap where a tooth was missing. "You live with it," Daniel said softly. "You live with the choice you made. You let them be." That's the only decent move here." Josh shook his head over and over. He couldn't live with it. The seeing had changed everything. The knowing was a fire in his brain. "She's going to be at a gala in the Hamptons the day after tomorrow," Josh said, more to himself than to Daniel. "Josh, no." "I'm going." "It's a terrible idea. You'll ruin the night for her. You'll scare those kids." "I just need to see them. I just need to say the words to her face." Daniel threw his hands up. "You're not listening. You never listen. You think your need is the only thing that matters. You haven't changed at all." He walked toward the elevator, then turned back. "The food is on the table. Don't do this, Josh. For once in your life, think about someone other than yourself." The elevator door closed, leaving Josh in silence again. He looked at the cold food. He looked back at the computer. He clicked on the link for the Hope for Single Mothers Gala. There was a page to purchase tickets. The price for a single entry was $50,000. He didn't hesitate. He entered his credit card details. He bought one ticket. For the next day and a half, Josh moved through his apartment like a ghost. He did not sleep. He watched the video of Emma's speech 100 times. He memorized the pictures of his children. Peter sent more updates. Emma's schedule, the address of the Hamptons estate, the security details. Josh packed a bag. He chose his most understated, expensive suit. He practiced what he would say in the mirror. "Emma, I'm so sorry. I was wrong. I was afraid." It sounded weak. It sounded stupid. "Emma, please, let me explain." "No. I didn't know it was 4. I would never have—" A lie. He would have. He knew he would have. The fear would have been quadrupled. The morning of the gala, his private jet took him from Manhattan to a small airfield near the Hamptons. A car was waiting for him. The drive was through beautiful lanes lined with huge, hidden homes. He felt a knot of anxiety tighten in his stomach. The estate was immense. White tents were set up on perfect green lawns that rolled down to the water. There were valets. There was soft music. There were women in gowns and men in tuxedos laughing easily. Josh felt like an imposter. For the first time in his adult life, his money and clothes did not make him belong. He handed his ticket to a woman at a podium. She checked his name on a list. "Welcome, Mr. Carter. Enjoy the evening." He walked into the crowd. His eyes scanned frantically, ignoring the art for sale, the champagne, the glittering people. He was looking for one face. He did not see her. Panic began to rise. What if she wasn't here? What if Peter's information was wrong? Then he heard a ripple of applause from a group near a large tent. He turned, and there she was. Emma stood in the center of a small circle, holding a glass of water. She was listening to an older man speak, nodding politely. She wore a deep blue dress that was both simple and stunning. She looked serene. She looked untouchable. His heart hammered against his ribs. This was it. This was his chance. He started moving toward her, weaving through the crowd. His mouth was dry. He rehearsed the first sentence in his head. Asterisk Emma. "It's Josh. Please, can we talk?" He was 10 feet away, then 5. A large, solid shape stepped directly into his path, blocking his view of Emma completely. It was a woman. She was not in a gown. She wore a sharp, dark pantsuit. Her hair was pulled back severely. Her eyes were dark and held no warmth. She looked at Josh as if she had been expecting him. "Mr. Carter," she said. Her voice was low, firm, and left no room for argument. "You need to turn around now." The woman did not move. She stood perfectly still, a wall in a pantsuit. Josh tried to look past her, to see Emma, but the woman shifted slightly, blocking his view again. "You need to turn around now," she repeated. her voice calm and absolute. "I just need to speak with her for 1 minute," Josh said, his own voice sounding thin and desperate to his ears. "No, you do not," the woman said. "Miss Williams does not wish to see you. You are on the restricted list for this event. Your presence here is a mistake. My job is to correct it." "Who are you?" Josh asked, though he knew. Peter's report had mentioned a head of security, a Mrs. Alvarez. "I am the person telling you to leave," Mrs. Alvarez said. Her eyes never left his face. They were the eyes of someone who had seen every kind of trouble and was not impressed by any of it. "You can walk out the main gate on your own, or I can have 2 gentlemen escort you. The choice is simple." Behind her, Josh saw Emma glance over. Her eyes met his. For 1 second, he saw a flash of recognition. Then, nothing. Her expression became as smooth and cold as glass. She turned her head back to the man she was speaking with, smiled politely at something he said, and deliberately took a step away, turning her shoulder to Josh completely. The dismissal was so clean, so final, it took the air from his lungs. "Please," he said to Mrs. Alvarez, the word tasting bitter. "Just tell her I'm here. Tell her I need to apologize." "She knows you are here," Mrs. Alvarez said. "She does not want your apology. This is your last warning. Turn and walk away." Josh's hands clenched at his sides. He felt a hot wave of frustration and shame. He was Josh Carter. People did not treat him like this. But here, in this place, he was nothing. He was a man on a list, a restriction. His eyes, desperate, darted away from Mrs. Alvarez's stern face. They swept the crowd, the tents, the lawn. And then they stopped. In a cordoned-off area near a large old tree, he saw them. A woman in a simple dress sat on a blanket. Around her, playing with wooden blocks and colorful books, were 4 small children: Olivia, Ava, Liam, and Noah. They were dressed in beautiful, comfortable clothes. They were not running or yelling. They were talking to each other, showing each other their toys. They looked peaceful. They looked happy. Josh forgot about Mrs. Alvarez. He forgot about Emma. He took an involuntary step to the side, his whole being pulled toward those 4 little figures. "Do not!" Mrs. Alvarez's voice cut through, sharp as a knife. She did not raise her voice, but it stopped him cold. "Do not look at them. Do not go near them. That is not a request." "They're right there," Josh whispered, his voice full of awe and pain. "And you are here," Mrs. Alvarez said. "And here is where you will stay, or you will be removed." Josh stood rooted to the spot, disobeying her order not to look. He couldn't not look. He watched as one of the girls, Ava, built a tall, wobbly tower of blocks. Her little tongue was poked out in concentration. She placed the last block on top. The tower swayed. It did not fall. She clapped her hands together and laughed, turning to say something to the boy next to her, Liam. Liam was looking at a picture book. He pointed at something on the page and shoved the book toward the nanny, asking a question Josh could not hear. The nanny smiled and answered, pointing to the picture with her own finger. They were perfect. They were a complete little world. And he was a stranger, staring through an invisible fence. Then, as if she felt the weight of his stare, Ava looked up. Her eyes scanned the crowd of adults, then found his. She stopped smiling. Her head tilted to one side. She stared at him with open, childlike curiosity. She did not look afraid. She looked puzzled. She nudged her sister, Olivia, and pointed subtly in Josh's direction. Olivia looked. Then Liam looked. Then Noah. 4 pairs of eyes, his own eyes, settled on him. They whispered to each other. One of them, Liam, said something that made the others look back at Josh. then down at their own hands, as if comparing. "They know," he thought. "They know I look like them." Ava raised her hand. It was a tiny, hesitant movement, a small wave. Josh's heart shattered. He forced his own hand to move to give a little wave back. His smile felt like a crack in stone. The nanny followed the children's gaze. She saw Josh. Her friendly expression vanished. She said something firm and low to the children. She gently put a hand on Ava's shoulder and turned her away. She gathered them closer, opening a new book, creating a new focus. The circle closed. Josh was shut out. "Time's up," Mrs. Alvarez said. Her voice was closer now. She had taken a step toward him. "You're leaving. Now." "You can't just—" "I can. I am." She nodded over his shoulder. Josh turned and saw two very large, very serious men in dark suits standing a few feet away. They were watching him. They waited for a signal from Mrs. Alvarez. The humiliation was a physical burn. He had never been thrown out of anywhere in his life. "Fine," he spat out, the word choked with anger and defeat. "I'm going." He turned and walked, not toward the main house, but away from it, across the vast lawn toward the edge of the property where the cars were parked. He could feel Mrs. Alvarez's eyes on his back the entire way. He did not look at the children again. He could not bear it. He reached the long driveway, but he did not call for his car. He stood in the shadows of a tall hedge, the sounds of the gala, the music, the gentle chatter, floating toward him. He was outside it. He was always outside it. He found a spot where he could see into the large white tent where the main event was happening. People were taking their seats at round tables. A stage was lit up at the front. After a while, the music faded. A man in a tuxedo walked onto the stage and tapped the microphone. The crowd quieted. "Ladies and gentlemen," the man said, his voice amplified and cheerful. "Thank you for your incredible generosity tonight. Before we begin dinner, it is my great honor to introduce our keynote speaker. She is a pioneer, a visionary, and a powerful testament to the mission of this organization. Please welcome the founder and CEO of Etheltech, a devoted mother, and one of our most inspiring supporters, Miss Emma Williams." The applause was loud and warm. Josh watched, his body numb, as Emma walked onto the stage. She moved with an easy confidence. She did not have notes. She smiled at the audience, then her smile softened into something more serious. She waited for the applause to die down. "Thank you," she said. Her voice was clear and carried easily. It was the voice from the video, but hearing it live, in this context, was different. It was powerful. "I am honored to be here tonight, among people who understand that single mother should not be a phrase synonymous with struggle, but with immense strength." More applause. Josh did not clap. He stood frozen in the dark. "5 years ago," Emma continued, "my life changed in 2 ways. I learned I was going to be a mother, and I learned I would be doing it alone." She paused. The crowd was utterly silent. The fear in that moment was a real physical thing. It was the fear of not being enough, the fear of failing, the fear of how the world sees a woman alone with a child. Or in my case, 4 children. A gentle, knowing laugh rippled through the audience. Emma smiled briefly. I was given a choice in that moment, to let the fear define me, or to let it fuel me. I chose fuel. She looked out at the crowd, her gaze steady. But let's be very clear. That choice should not be a requirement for survival. No mother should have to become a billionaire just to provide a good life for her children. This time, the applause was thunderous. Josh felt each clap like a slap. "The money I am donating tonight," Emma said, raising her voice slightly over the noise, is not charity. It is an investment. An investment in childcare so a mother can go to a job interview. An investment in legal aid so she can secure child support. An investment in housing so she has a safe place to read bedtime stories. It is an investment in giving that fear less power, so that the next woman who finds herself alone and scared has a net beneath her. So her only job is to be a mother, not a superhero. The crowd rose to its feet. The ovation was long and loud. Emma nodded, accepting it with a humble grace that seemed utterly genuine. Josh did not move. He watched her stand there, illuminated, celebrated. He heard every word. Asterisk 5 years ago. Alone. 4 children. The fear. He saw the envelope of money on her table. He saw himself walking out the door. Her success was not just in spite of him. It was a direct, living reply to him. Every dollar she was giving away tonight was a monument to the day he had walked away. He had funded her fear, and she had transformed it into this, into standing ovations and a legacy of help. He was not a billionaire in the shadows. He was the shadow. He was the reason the net needed to exist. The applause finally subsided. Emma left the stage, smiling and shaking hands as she moved through the crowd, back to her life, back to her children. Josh turned away from the light and the sound. He walked down the dark driveway alone. The weight of her words, and the sight of his children's curious fading waves pressing down on him until he could barely breathe. He had come to explain, to apologize, to claim a piece of something, but he had nothing to offer. He was just a man in the dark, finally hearing the echo of a door he himself had slammed shut, understanding for the first time how completely he had locked himself out. The drive back to Manhattan was a blur of dark roads and his own harsh thoughts. Josh did not go home. He went straight to his office. It was late, after midnight. The tower was silent, except for the hum of the night lights. He sat in his chair, but he did not turn on his computer. He stared at the dark skyline, seeing only the bright tent, the 4 small faces, the wave. He did not sleep. He worked, but it was not real work. He stared at reports without reading them. He opened emails and closed them. In a morning meeting about a European acquisition, his CFO, a serious woman named Linda, had to say his name 3 times. "Josh, the valuation model. Your thoughts?" Josh blinked. He looked at the screen projected on the wall. The numbers meant nothing. "It's fine. Whatever you think is best." Linda exchanged a quick glance with Daniel, who was also in the meeting. Daniel's face was set in a careful, neutral mask. "It's not fine, Josh," Linda said carefully. "This is the core adjustment. We need your sign-off on the risk factor." "Then adjust it," Josh said, his voice rough. "Lower it. I don't care. Just make it work." He stood up and left the conference room. He heard the stunned silence behind him. He did not care. Back in his private office, he shut the door. The emptiness of the Hamptons, of being told to leave, of being seen and then unseen by his own children, was a scream inside his head. He had to do something. He had to send a signal. He had to show he was here, that he cared. Money was his language. It was the only language he had ever been fluent in. He called his assistant, Chloe. "I need a personal shopper, the best one, for children's gifts, for 4-year-olds, 2 boys, 2 girls." Chloe paused. "For a charity, sir?" "No, for personal gifts. I need them today, the absolute best of everything. Unique. Perfect. No budget." I'll find someone and have them call you directly," Chloe said, her professionalism overriding her obvious confusion. An hour later, Josh was on the phone with a woman named Celeste, whose voice was like smooth honey. "Wonderful, Mr. Carter. So, We have quadruplets? How delightful! May I suggest a thematic approach? Perhaps miniature luxury? A bespoke electric-powered miniature car for each child? We can have them painted in their favorite colors. Yes, do that, Josh said. And for the young ladies, we can do a starter jewelry set from a fine designer. Pendant necklaces with their initial. For the young gentleman, perhaps a customized high-end learning tablet preloaded with educational sweets? Yes, all of it. And something else, something big. Stuffed animals, the biggest they make. The biggest, Celeste repeated, her pen scratching. I know a studio that makes life-sized, very plush giraffes. They are quite stunning. 4 of them, Josh said. 1 each. Of course. Delivery address? Josh gave her Emma's address in San Francisco, the one from Peter's report. I want a note included. Simple. Just say from Josh. On each gift. Consider it done. Everything will be sourced, wrapped, and shipped via white glove courier within 24 hours. For the first time since the airport, Josh felt a flicker of purpose. This was action. This was tangible. They would receive these amazing gifts. They would know he was thinking of them. They would see he could provide wonderful things. It was a start. 2 days later, a courier arrived at his office with 4 large, flat boxes. Chloe brought them in, her face puzzled. They're return to sender, Mr. Carter, from San Francisco. Josh stared. They were the jewelry sets. The beautiful wrapping was untouched. The shipping label had a bright orange refused sticker slapped across it. He felt a hot prickling on his skin. Where are the other items? I'll check the shipping tracker, Chloe said softly. The rest of the day brought a slow-motion disaster. The miniature cars were returned to the dealership. The custom tablets came back to the tech supplier. The 4 giant plush giraffes were returned to the specialty studio. All refused. All unopened. Emma's wall was not just made of bodyguards. It was impenetrable. Josh sat at his desk that night, the returned jewelry boxes in front of him. He took out a piece of his heavy cream-colored stationery. He picked up a pen. Asterisk, Emma. Asterisk, he wrote. Then he stopped. He crumpled the paper and threw it away. He started again. Asterisk, Emma. I saw you at the gala. I saw the children. They are so beautiful. I know my words mean nothing. I know what I did is unforgivable. I just need you to know that I am sorry. A sorry so deep I can't breathe around it. I didn't know about the 4 of them. It changes nothing, but I didn't know. Please, just let me explain. Let me try, in some small way, to be in their lives. I will follow any rule you set. I will do anything you ask. Josh. Asterisk. He wrote the same basic words again and again, 10 different ways, on 10 different sheets of paper. Some were long, some were short. All of them felt pathetic. He chose the 3 that felt least terrible. He put each one in a plain envelope, wrote only her name on them, and sent them to her San Francisco home, her New York apartment, and her Etheltech office. He waited. A week passed. No response. The silence was louder than any scream. It was the sound of his own existence being erased. Frustration curdled into a hard, legal anger. If she would not accept gifts or letters, he had rights. He was their father. He called his firm's head of legal, but stopped himself. This was too personal. He needed a specialist. He found the number for Martin Ford, of Ford Cartwright, a family law firm known for handling high-net-worth, high-conflict cases. He was in Ford's lavish office by that afternoon. Ford was a man in his 60s with a kind face that did not reach his eyes. Mr. Carter, your situation, as you've outlined it, is complex. I want to establish paternity. I want a legal framework for visitation. Shared custody eventually, Josh said, the word sounding hollow even to him. Ford steepled his fingers. Let's walk through the hurdles. First, paternity. You have no relationship with the mother for 5 years. You have never met the children. You are not on any birth certificate. She will contest it. That means a court-ordered test. Fine, I'll do it. Second, and more importantly, the bar for any visitation or custody is the best interests of the children. You are a stranger to them. Their mother is Emma Williams. Ford said the name with weight. She is a billionaire, a public figure of impeccable character, a philanthropist. The courts will see a stable, loving, more than adequate home. They will see you as a biological progenitor who abandoned her during pregnancy. You have no history of care, no relationship. Your recent attempts at contact could be framed as harassment. Harassment? I'm their father! Biologically, possibly. Legally, emotionally, practically. No, you are not. Ford's voice was gentle but relentless. If you force this, Mr. Carter, it will be a long, ugly, and very public battle. You will spend millions. You will cause immense stress to those children. And in the end, a judge is likely to grant you, at best, supervised visitation after a long, slow process of introduction, if you are very lucky. More likely, you will get nothing but a court order to stay away and a massive legal bill. And you will have ensured that Emma Williams and those children will hate you forever. Josh slumped back in his chair. The law was a cold, clear mirror, and it showed him a pathetic figure. So there's nothing I can do? You can wait, Ford said. You can demonstrate a consistent, patient, and respectful desire to be involved, with no pressure. You can hope the mother softens, but you cannot force your way in, not with your history, not with her resources. I am sorry. Josh returned to his office. The helplessness was a cage. He looked at the pile of returned gifts in the corner, a monument to his failure. The door opened. Daniel walked in, 2 coffee cups in hand. He stopped when he saw the pile of giant stuffed giraffes leaning against the wall. What in the world is that? Daniel asked. They were returned, Josh said dully. Daniel put the coffees down. He walked over and touched the soft ear of one giraffe. You sent these? To the kids? They refused everything. The cars, the tablets, everything. She won't even read my letters. Daniel sighed, a long, weary sound. He came and sat opposite Josh. Josh, look at me. You can't fix the past with a check. You can't buy a door into their lives. You hurt her. You disappeared. You don't get to use a credit card to make that all better. What am I supposed to do then? Josh snapped, anger flaring. Just forget they exist? I can't. No one's asking you to forget, Daniel said, his voice steady. I'm asking you to think, really think. What are you doing this for? Is it for them? Or is it to make your own guilt go away? It's for them, is it? Because sending a giant giraffe to a kid who doesn't know you isn't for them. It's for you. It's you shouting, look at me. I can buy big things. They don't need big things, Josh. Emma has given them everything they need. They have a home. They have love. They have stability. What they don't have is you, and you can't purchase that. Josh looked away, his jaw tight. If you really want to change, Daniel said softer now, you have to start by changing you asterisk, not by throwing presents at the problem. You need to become a man who might deserve a place in their lives, not a billionaire who demands one. And that work? That's quiet. That's slow. That has nothing to do with money. Josh heard the words, but they buzzed around him like flies. He was a man of action. Quiet and slow was the same as nothing. "I have to see them," Josh said, more to himself. "I have to see them in their normal life. Maybe then I'll know what to say. Maybe then she'll see I'm serious." Daniel closed his eyes, pinching the bridge of his nose. "You're not listening. Going there is the worst thing you could do. I'm not going to confront her. I just need to see, from a distance." "That's not your right," Daniel said, his patience finally snapping. "You lost the right to be in their zip code 5 years ago. This isn't one of your deals, Josh. You can't negotiate your way out of this. You just have to live with it." Josh stood up, his decision solidifying. "I can't. I'm going. I have to." Daniel stood up too, his face sad. "Then you're going to wreck whatever tiny future chance you might have had. And you're going to hurt them in the process. I hope you can live with that, too." After Daniel left, Josh went straight to his computer. He booked a first-class ticket on a commercial flight to San Francisco for the next morning. He did not pack gifts. He did not write another letter. He packed a single bag. As he finalized the booking, he told himself a simple story. He would go. He would find the school. He would watch from across the street. He would see them laughing, playing, living. He would absorb the reality of them, and then, somehow, the right words would come to him. The words that would finally make Emma listen. The words that would unlock the door. He landed in San Francisco with the morning sun in his eyes, a plan in his head, and a desperate, fragile hope in his heart that seeing them just once would be the key to everything. The air in San Francisco was cool and carried the scent of salt and eucalyptus. Josh had spent a sleepless night in a hotel room that looked nothing like his apartment. It was small. He could hear the city. He hated it. He was up before dawn, watching the sky turn from black to gray to a pale milky blue. He used the map on his phone. The preschool, Little Explorers, was in a quiet, tree-lined neighborhood. He rented a common sedan, something no one would notice. He parked across the street and 2 houses down, giving himself a clear view of the school's cheerful yellow door. He felt like a criminal. His heart thumped heavily against his ribs. He checked his watch every few minutes. The school would start in 1 hour. He told himself he would wait. He would just see them go in. That was all. A glimpse of their morning routine. Proof that they were real, normal children. Parents began to arrive. They walked hand in hand with their kids, carrying little lunch boxes. They knelt to tie shoes. They kissed heads before their children ran inside. Josh watched each one, a hollow ache growing in his chest. He had never tied a tiny shoe. He had never packed a lunch. Then, a familiar black SUV pulled up right in front of the school. Josh's body went rigid. He slid down slightly in his seat. The driver's door opened. Mrs. Alvarez got out. She scanned the street with her practiced eyes. She looked directly at his rental car for a second. Josh held his breath. She looked away, opening the back passenger door. The children tumbled out. They were wearing bright raincoats, though it wasn't raining. Olivia held Ava's hand. Liam was jumping off the curb. Noah was pointing at something in a tree. They were talking over each other, a jumble of high, sweet voices he could not hear through the glass. Mrs. Alvarez said something, and they formed a loose line. She walked them to the yellow door, where a teacher with a bright smile greeted them. Josh watched, mesmerized, as each child gave Mrs. Alvarez a quick hug before darting inside. Then the door closed, and Mrs. Alvarez drove away. Josh exhaled. He had seen them. They were perfect. The plan was working. He would wait until pickup time. He would see them again, from right here. That would be enough for today. The hours dragged. He could not leave. He was afraid if he moved, he would miss something. He bought a terrible coffee from a corner store and returned to his car. He watched parents come and go. He watched a delivery truck block his view and felt a panic that surprised him. Finally, the afternoon sun was lowering. The school door opened. Children began streaming out in a noisy, colorful wave. His eyes found them immediately. The four of them came out together, holding hands in two pairs. Olivia with Ava, Liam with Noah. A young teacher walked with them, smiling. This was his moment. Just to observe. Just to know they were okay. They stopped on the sidewalk, waiting. The teacher was saying something to Liam, who nodded seriously. Josh's hand moved on its own. It went to the car door handle. He didn't want to get out. But he did. He needed to be closer. He needed to breathe the same air. He stood on the sidewalk, leaning against his rental car about 30 feet away. He was just a man waiting, he told himself. Nothing strange. Liam looked up from his conversation with the teacher. His eyes passed over the street, then snapped back. He stared at Josh. He stopped talking. He tugged on Olivia's sleeve and pointed. Olivia looked. Then Ava. Then Noah. All four children fell silent. They stared at the man across the street. They looked at each other, their small faces filled with a deep, wordless confusion. They whispered to each other, their eyes flicking back to Josh. He saw the recognition in their faces. It was the same look from the Hamptons, but sharper now, without the buffer of a party crowd. Asterisk, you look like us. The unspoken words hung in the air between them. Josh offered a small, helpless smile. He raised his hand in a gentle wave. They did not wave back. They just stared, a tight little knot of wonder and uncertainty. The teacher noticed. She followed their gaze. She saw Josh. Her friendly smile faded into caution. She placed a gentle hand on Liam's and Olivia's shoulders, pulling them a step closer to her. The black SUV turned the corner and glided to a stop at the curb. The passenger door opened, and Emma stepped out. She was in jeans and a sweater, her hair in a simple ponytail. She was saying something to Mrs. Alvarez, who was still behind the wheel. Then she turned toward the children. She saw Josh. Every bit of softness left her face. It became a mask of cold stone. Her eyes locked onto his, and the air between them turned to ice. Inside the car. Now, she said to the teacher, her voice low but clear. The teacher, looking relieved, quickly guided the four staring children into the back seat of the SUV. Mrs. Alvarez watched from the driver's seat, her expression grim. Emma closed the car door, sealing the children inside. Then she walked toward Josh. Her steps were slow and deliberate. She stopped a few feet from him. For the first time in 5 years, they were alone. No terminal window, no party crowd, no bodyguard between them. Just the two of them on a sunny sidewalk in San Francisco. "What are you doing here, Josh?" she asked. Her voice was dangerously calm. All the speeches he had practiced, all the apologies he had written, vanished from his mind. His mouth was dry. I needed to see you, to talk to you. You saw me in the Hamptons. I made my position clear. You were told to leave. I know. I'm sorry. I didn't know how to—" He stumbled over the words. "The children. They're so beautiful, Emma." Her expression did not change. "Yes, they are. I want to make things right. I want to help. I want to be in their lives." The words tumbled out, raw and desperate. Emma listened, her head tilted slightly. When he finished, she was silent for a long moment. The only sound was a distant lawnmower. "You had a choice, Josh," she said finally. 5 years ago, you had a clear choice. You chose yourself. You chose your freedom, your money, Your fear. I chose them. Every single day since then, I have chosen them. We are complete. We are happy. You are a ghost from a past I have moved 1,000,000 miles beyond. I need you to leave us alone." She turned to go back to the car. A bolt of pure panic shot through him. "They are my kids too!" he shouted, the words bursting out before he could stop them. Emma froze. She turned back slowly. The controlled calm was gone. Now, her eyes blazed with a fury so deep, it made him take a step back. "What did you just say?" she whispered. "They're mine," Josh said, the desperation making him bold. "I have a right. You have no asterisk right." She cut him off, her voice rising. "You forfeited every right when you handed me that envelope and walked out. You don't get to parachute into their lives now that the hard part is over. You don't get to call them yours." "I'm their father." Emma took a step closer to him. Her anger was a physical force. "You're acting just like your father, aren't you?" The words stopped him cold. "What?" he breathed. "Your father," Emma said, each word precise and sharp. "The man who abandoned you and your mother when you were 7 years old. The man you told me you hated. You swore you would never, ever be like him." Josh felt the sidewalk tilt under his feet. "But you were worse," Emma continued, her voice dropping to a deadly low register. "You knew how that pain felt. You knew what it did to your mother. You carried that scar your whole life. And when you were faced with the same choice, you didn't just walk away. You took the knowledge of that pain, and you chose to give it to me. And you chose it for them." She jerked her head toward the SUV, where 4 small faces were pressed against the window, watching. "You knew exactly what you were doing. You are not your father. You are the man who learned from his father's cruelty and decided to repeat it anyway." It was like being struck. The air left his lungs. The noise of the street faded. He could see his father's back, walking out the door of their small Ohio house. He could feel his mother's hand on his shoulder, trembling. He could hear his own teenage vow. Asterisk, I will never be like him. Emma looked at his shattered face. There was no pity in her eyes, only a final, devastating truth. "Now you know," she said quietly. "Leave us alone." She turned and walked to the SUV. She got into the passenger seat without looking back. Mrs. Alvarez pulled the car away from the curb. Josh stood rooted to the sidewalk. He watched the car disappear down the tree-lined street. He replayed her words. They echoed, each one a hammer blow on the fragile story he had told himself for 5 years, that he was just protecting himself, making a tough choice, building a life. He had never connected the two moments. The boy watching his father leave, the man leaving the pregnant woman. They were the same person. He had become the very thing he had built his entire life to escape. The SUV was gone. The children were gone. Emma was gone. He was alone on the sunny sidewalk, his whole history, his whole identity, crumbling to dust around him with the echo of a single, shattering sentence. He did not know how long he stood there. The sun moved. A woman walking a small dog gave him a wide berth. A car honked. He did not move. "You're acting just like your father." The words were a loop in his head. They were not just words. They were a key, turning in a lock he did not know existed, opening a door to a room he had spent his whole life running from. He started walking. He had no destination. His feet moved on their own, carrying him away from the school, down one street, then another. The nice houses with their tidy gardens blurred into a smear of color. He walked until his legs ached, and his breath came in short gasps. He walked until he found a part of the city that was less tidy, with more concrete, more noise, He saw a bar. The door was dark wood. A neon sign in the window glowed with the name of a beer. He pushed the door open and went inside. It was dark and quiet inside. It smelled of old wood and cleaner. It was the middle of the afternoon. Only 2 other people sat at the long bar. Josh took a stool at the far end. The bartender, a man with a gray beard, wiped the counter in front of him. "What can I get you?" "Whiskey. Whatever you have," Josh said. His voice sounded strange to him. The bartender poured a glass of amber liquid and set it down. Josh picked it up. He did not drink it. He just held it, feeling the cool glass against his palm. He stared at the dark wood of the bar. The wood seemed to dissolve. He was not in San Francisco anymore. Asterisk. He was 7 years old. He was in the small living room of the house in Ohio. The couch had a faded flower pattern. His father was putting clothes into a big dark green suitcase. His mother stood in the doorway to the kitchen. She was not crying. She was perfectly still. Her face was white. "You can't do this, Michael," his mother said. Her voice was a thin thread. His father did not look at her. He zipped the suitcase closed. "It's too hard, Susan. The bills, the baby. I can't breathe." "He's not a baby. He's 7, and he's your son." His father finally looked up. His eyes went past his wife to where Josh stood by the toy box. His father's eyes were not sad. They were tired, and they were far away. "It's better this way." He picked up the suitcase. He walked to the door. He did not touch Josh. He did not say goodbye. He opened the door and walked out. He closed the door softly behind him. Josh ran to the window. He watched his father's car back out of the driveway and drive down the street until it was gone. He turned around. His mother had sunk to the floor. Her shoulders shook. She made no sound. The memory was so vivid, he could smell the old carpet. He could feel the cold window glass under his small hands. The bartender cleared his throat. "You all right, pal?" Josh blinked. He was back in the bar. He lifted the whiskey and drank it all in one burning swallow. He nodded at the bartender for another. The next memory came without warning. Asterisk. He was 12. His mother was at the kitchen table. Bills were spread everywhere. She had her head in her hands. The phone was off the hook. "But it's my birthday next week," Josh heard himself say. His mother looked up. Her eyes were red. "I know, honey. I know. I'm trying." "You said you'd get me the new glove." "Josh, please. Not now. The rent is late. The car needs fixing. I can't." He saw the defeat in her eyes, the exhaustion. It was because of his father, because his father had left. He felt a hot, black hatred bloom in his chest. He swore to himself right there. He would never be poor. He would never be weak. He would never let a woman look at him the way his mother had looked at those bills. He would make so much money that no one could ever leave him. No one could ever make him feel that small again. The bartender set the second whiskey in front of him. Josh ignored it. Asterisk. 5 years ago. Emma's apartment, the news of her pregnancy, the cold fear that gripped him. It wasn't fear of being a father. It was the fear of that kitchen table. It was the fear of those bills. It was the fear of his mother's tired face. Emma and a baby were not a family to him. They were a financial trap. They were an anchor that would pull him back down into the life he had escaped. They were the reason his father had left. He had not been protecting himself from fatherhood. He had been protecting himself from becoming his mother. And in doing so, he had become his father. He had looked at Emma's scared, hopeful face, and he had seen a problem to be solved with money. He had handed her the envelope just to make the problem go away. He had walked out that door exactly as his father had walked out of his. He had recreated the very trauma he was running from. He had given his children the same wound he carried. He had given Emma the same lonely pain he had watched his mother endure. The understanding was a physical sickness. He put his head down on the cool wood of the bar. "Hey, buddy, you're gonna have to sit up or leave," the bartender said, not unkindly. Josh sat up. He threw some cash on the bar, far too much. He stood up and walked out into the late afternoon light. The clarity was worse than the confusion. He saw his whole life as a straight, stupid line. From a boy watching a taillight disappear to a man making his own taillights disappear. He went to the airport. He got on the first flight back to New York. He sat in the first-class seat, but he did not see the other passengers. He did not eat the food. He stared at the seat in front of him, seeing only the past. He landed at JFK. He took a car to his building. He rode the silent elevator up to his penthouse. He did not turn on the lights. He stood in the immense living room, in the dark, watching the city lights twinkle far below. They looked like cold, distant stars. He felt farther from them than ever. The elevator chimed. The doors opened. Light from the hallway spilled in, outlining Daniel's figure. "Chloe said you were back, that you looked not good," Daniel said. He stepped inside. The elevator doors closed behind him, plunging them back into near darkness. "What happened?" Josh did not turn around. "She said I was like my father." He heard Daniel's soft footsteps as he came to stand beside him at the window. "Emma said that?" "Yes." Josh's voice was flat. She was right. Daniel was quiet for a long time. "Tell me." And for the first time, Josh did. Not about Emma, not about the children. He talked about Ohio. He talked about the green suitcase. He talked about the kitchen table, and the bills, and his mother's silent crying. He talked about the vow he made to never be poor, to never need anyone, to build a fortress of money so high no one could get in and nothing could get out. "When she told me she was pregnant," Josh said, the words coming slowly, "I didn't see a baby. I saw that kitchen table. I saw my mother's face. I saw my entire future collapsing into a pile of bills and worry and failure. I was so scared of being left that I left first. I was so scared of being my mother that I chose to be my father instead. I knew exactly what it felt like to be the kid left behind, and I did it to them anyway." He finally looked at Daniel. In the dim light from the city, he knew his face was wet. He did not care. "I am the thing I hated most in the world." Daniel's face was serious. He did not offer easy comfort. "Yeah," he said softly, "you are." The honesty was brutal. It was also what Josh needed. "What do I do?" Josh whispered. It was not the desperate question of a man seeking a shortcut. It was the broken question of a man who finally saw the wreckage. "I don't know," Daniel said, "but sending more giant stuffed animals isn't it. Trying to sue her isn't it. Showing up at their school definitely isn't it." "It was all for me," Josh said, realizing it as he said it. "The gifts, the letters, the lawyer. It was all to make me feel better. To ease my guilt. It had nothing to do with them." Daniel nodded. "For the first time, you're thinking about what they need, not what you want." "They need me to disappear," Josh said, the truth a bitter pill. "Maybe," Daniel said, "or maybe they need you to become a different person first. A person who isn't trying to buy or force his way in. A person who understands that some things can't be fixed, only endured." Josh looked back out at the city, the fortress he had built. It was empty. It was a monument to his fear. He had spent his life running from a ghost, only to become that ghost. "I don't know how to be a different person," Josh admitted. "Start small," Daniel said. "And for God's sake, stop making it about them. Fixing yourself isn't a transaction to get a family. It's just fixing yourself." Josh was silent for a long time. The old urges were still there, to hire someone, to fund something, to do some big, loud thing that would shout his change to the world. But Daniel's words, and Emma's, had finally carved a new path in his mind. A quiet one, a hard one. He had spent a lifetime believing money could solve anything. Now he faced the one thing it could not solve, the man he had become. "I need to be alone," Josh said, not unkindly. Daniel clapped a hand on his shoulder, a firm, steady pressure. "Okay, call me, anytime." After Daniel left, Josh remained in the dark. The frantic, obsessive energy that had driven him since the airport was gone. In its place was a heavy, cold certainty. He saw the cycle with perfect, painful clarity. The problem was no longer out there, in Emma's refusal or the children's curious stares. The problem was inside him. It was the scared boy from Ohio, now a rich man in a tower, finally understanding that the treasure he had spent his life hunting was the very thing that had poisoned him. He had no plan, no grand gesture. For the first time, he had only the quiet, terrifying work of looking at the man in the mirror and beginning the long, uncertain task of changing him. Weeks passed. The frantic energy that had consumed Josh was gone, replaced by a grim, quiet determination. He went to his office, but he did not work on mergers. He did not check stock prices. He called a meeting with his chief financial officer, Linda Garcia. She sat across from him, her tablet ready. "You wanted to see me, Josh?" "Yes," he said. He folded his hands on the desk. "I want to liquidate a portion of my ownership in the firm. A non-controlling share, 20%. Linda's pen froze above her tablet. She looked up, her professional mask slipping for a second. 20%. That's a substantial liquidity event. May I ask why? Is there an acquisition you're planning personally? Is everything all right with the company?" "The company is fine," Josh said. His voice was steady. "This is personal. I need the capital for a private project, a long-term project. This will take time. There are protocols, board notifications." "I know," Josh said. "Start the process. Today. I don't care about maximizing the valuation. I want it done cleanly and quietly." Linda studied his face. She had known him for 8 years. She saw the dark circles under his eyes, but she also saw a new stillness. The manic obsession from a month ago was absent. This was something else. "I'll start the wheels in motion," she said finally. "Thank you, Linda." The next call was to a headhunter. "I need to hire an executive director for a new philanthropic foundation. The candidate must have experience in social services, specifically with single-parent families and housing insecurity. I do not want a celebrity fundraiser. I want an operator." He interviewed 3 candidates in 2 days. He chose a woman named Anya Sharma. She had worked for a decade running a network of shelters in Chicago. She was sharp, no nonsense, and asked hard questions. "What is the mission of the foundation, Mr. Carter?" she asked in their meeting. "To provide support for single-parent families, housing, childcare, career training, direct cash assistance where it's most effective." "And the name of the foundation?" "The Williams Foundation." Anya made a note. "Named for a donor?" "Inspired by," Josh said carefully. "The literature will say it was founded by a private donor inspired by the resilience of single mothers. That is all." "And your name? On the letterhead? In the press?" "No," Josh said, his voice firm. "My name is not to appear on any document, any press release, any website. Not as a founder, not as a donor, not in the fine print. Is that clear? Anya looked intrigued. That is unusual. Most people in your position want the recognition. I don't, Josh said. This is not about recognition. This is the work. That's all. He gave her an initial budget that made her blink, but she recovered quickly. This is a significant sum. We can build something meaningful with this. Then build it, Josh said. He met with Daniel. His friend looked tired. Linda told me about the 20%. That's your safety net, Josh. That's your control. I don't need as much control, Josh said. I need you to take more. Daniel leaned back in his chair. What's going on? Is this about them? It's about me, Josh said. The money is for the foundation, the Williams Foundation. Daniel's eyes widened. Williams, as in Emma Williams, yes, but she doesn't know about it. And she won't. It's not for her. It's because of her. There's a difference. Josh, I'm not doing this to get to her, Dan. I swear to you, I'm doing this because it's the right thing to do. Because for the first time, I'm seeing the world from the other side of the envelope full of cash. I need you to run the firm. I'll be here, but my focus will be on the foundation. You'll have full operational authority. Daniel was silent for a long moment, searching Josh's face. He saw the absence of scheming, the lack of a hidden angle. He saw only a weary resolve. Okay, he said, I'll run the shop. You go build your thing. But if this is a trick, if you're trying to backdoor your way into her life, it's not, Josh said, and Daniel believed him. The most difficult step was the smallest. Josh found the name of a therapist, Dr. Levin, through a discreet referral. He sat in the waiting room feeling more exposed than in any boardroom. The office was warm, with soft chairs and quiet music. Joshua, a gentle voice said. A man in his 50s with kind eyes stood at an open door. The session was halting. Josh talked about business easily. He struggled to talk about Ohio. My father left, he said, the words sticking in his throat. I was 7. What did that feel like? Dr. Levin asked. It felt like the floor was gone. He had never said it out loud before. I promised myself I would never be poor. I would never be weak like my mother seemed. I would never let anyone have that kind of power over me. And how did that promise serve you? It made me rich. It made me lonely. It made me a coward. The word coward hung in the air. I repeated what he did. I left when someone needed me. I knew how much it hurt. And I did it anyway. So the boy who was afraid of becoming his mother, Dr. Levin said slowly, became his father instead. Josh could only nod. That's a powerful insight, Dr. Levin said. Now, what is the man going to do about it? Meanwhile, Anya Sharma worked fast. The Williams Foundation secured its first major project, renovating and expanding a struggling family shelter in the Bronx. Josh did not just sign checks. He read the architectural plans. He sat in on meetings with social workers. He learned terms like housing first model and cliff effect. In one meeting, a young social worker named Maya explained the cliff effect. A mother gets a small raise at her job. It pushes her just over the income limit for her subsidized apartment. So she loses the apartment. The raise isn't enough to cover market rent, so she's worse off. The system punishes her for trying to move forward. Josh thought of his own mother at the kitchen table. How do we fix that? Our program provides a bridge subsidy. We cover the gap for up to 3 years while she stabilizes. It gives her time to build real security. Do it, Josh said. Weeks turned into months. Josh's life became a strange split screen. Mornings were for therapy or foundation work. Afternoons were brief check-ins with Daniel at the firm. Evenings were spent alone in his apartment, but the silence felt different now. It was no longer a trophy. It was a space where he had to think. He did not search for news about Emma. He did not hire Peter to find new photos. One day, a financial news channel was on a screen in the Foundation's temporary office. A banner flashed. Othel Tech partners with European firm. Josh saw Emma's face on the screen for a second. He felt the old pull, the ache. But he did not stop. He picked up the phone and called the contractor about the shelter's new plumbing system. He turned his back to the screen. Anya came into his office one afternoon with a draft of a press release. The Bronx shelter renovation is complete. We're having an opening event for the community and the press. We need to acknowledge the founding donor. What should we say? Josh took the paper. He read it. He picked up a pen and crossed out the entire paragraph about the generous, anonymous benefactor. He wrote in the margin, asterisk, just say the work was made possible by the Williams Foundation. Full stop. Josh, Anya said gently, this work is good. People should know that philanthropy like this exists. They should know the work exists, Josh said. They don't need to know my name. Put the focus on the families moving in, on Maya and her team, not on me. Anya took the paper back, a small, respectful smile on her face. Okay. The night the shelter opened, Josh did not go. He sat in his apartment. He found the local community news channel online. They had a short segment about the opening. The video showed the bright, clean building. It showed Maya cutting a ribbon. It showed a young woman with 2 little boys holding her hands, walking through the door of their new temporary apartment. The woman was crying, but she was smiling. She hugged Maya. The reporter said, the Williams Foundation, a new force in city philanthropy, is taking a hands-on approach to fighting family homelessness. Josh turned off the video. He felt a strange, quiet feeling. It wasn't pride. It wasn't happiness. It was the absence of the old, hollow noise. For the first time, he had done something good that did not have his name on it, that did not increase his power, that did not try to fix a problem he had created. It was just a good thing existing in the world. He had no idea if it cast any light on his own darkness. But for a moment, the darkness felt a little less empty. The work of the Williams Foundation did not stop. A new community center opened in Queens. A pilot program for child care subsidies launched in 3 states. Josh's days were filled with budgets and site visits and reports. The quiet feeling he had the night of the shelter opening did not go away. It became a part of him. It was the feeling of doing something that was not about Joshua Carter. 6 months after the first shelter opened, Anya came to him with a plan. We need to think bigger, to create an endowment that will last. I want to host a major fundraising gala, not just for the wealthy, but to bring in other philanthropies, corporations, to build a coalition. Josh felt a flicker of his old resistance. A gala meant visibility. It meant a room full of people who might recognize him. You would need to be there, Anya said, watching him. As the anonymous founder, your presence would be expected by major donors, even if your name isn't public. You could stay in the background, but you should be there. He thought about it. His instinct was to hide. But Anya was right. This was for the foundation, not for him. He had to show up. Okay, he said, but I am a ghost. I don't speak. I don't get photographed. Understood, Anya said. The gala was held at the Museum of Modern Art. The main hall was transformed. Ice sculptures glimmered. A small orchestra played soft music. The crowd was a mix of wealthy donors, community leaders, and people who had been helped by the foundation's programs. Josh moved through the room like a shadow. He wore a simple black suit. He nodded at people, but did not engage. He watched as single mothers, dressed in new clothes provided by the foundation's professional wardrobe program, stood on the stage and told their stories. Their voices were strong. Their children stood beside them, holding their hands. Josh felt a tightness in his chest. It was not guilt this time. It was something closer to humility. He had caused one story of struggle. He could not erase it. But here, in this room, were 100 other stories where the ending was being changed. He needed a moment away from the crowd. He found a staircase that led to a secluded balcony overlooking the main hall. He stood there in the dim light, leaning on the railing, watching the scene below. He saw Anya working the room, brilliant and passionate. He saw Maya, the social worker, laughing with a group of women. He allowed himself, for just a second, to feel that this was good. Then, the main doors of the hall opened again. A new group of guests entered. Josh's breath caught. Emma Williams walked in, followed by Mrs. Alvarez. She was not dressed in a gown. She wore a tailored pantsuit of deep burgundy. Her hair was down. She looked around the room with a polite, professional curiosity. She was not the guest of honor. She was attending as a notable figure, a potential ally or donor. Josh's first impulse was to flee, to vanish down the back staircase. His presence here could ruin everything. She would think this was another trick, another manipulation, a grand public play for her attention. But he made himself stay. He made himself watch. He saw Anya approach Emma immediately. They shook hands. They began to talk. He saw Emma's face, serious, attentive. She was asking questions. She was listening. Mrs. Alvarez stood a step behind, her eyes scanning the room, the balconies. Her gaze passed over Josh's dark perch, without pausing. Josh stayed on the balcony for a long time. He watched Emma move through the crowd. She did not schmooze. She sought out the foundation's staff, the social workers. He saw her talking to Maya for 10 minutes, nodding intently. The program began. Speeches were made. A video about the foundation's work was shown. Josh watched it from above, his eyes constantly drifting back to Emma. She watched the screen, her face unreadable. He could not stay hidden all night. He needed a drink. He slipped down the back staircase and found a small secondary bar set up in a quieter gallery lined with abstract paintings. There was no one else there. He ordered a sparkling water from the bartender. He was staring at the bubbles in his glass when he felt a change in the air, a presence. He knew, even before he turned. Emma stood a few feet away. She was alone. Mrs. Alvarez was visible at the entrance to the gallery, a silent sentinel giving them space but keeping watch. Emma looked at him. Her expression was not the icy rage of San Francisco. It was not the blank dismissal of the Hamptons. It was weary, cautious, deeply, profoundly tired. For a full minute, neither of them spoke. The sounds of the gala were a distant murmur. "I heard a rumor," Emma said finally. Her voice was soft, but it carried in the quiet room. "About who funds this foundation?" Josh did not deny it. He could not. He simply nodded. "I did some digging. It wasn't hard, once I knew where to look. The paper trail is very clean, very thorough, and it ends in a blind trust that traces back to you." She paused. "Why?" Josh took a slow breath. "Because it was the right thing to do." "The right thing for who?" she asked, her eyes searching his. "For the people it helps," he said. "For the mothers, for the kids." Emma took a step closer. She was studying him, looking for the lie. "You named it after me." "It was inspired by you," he said, repeating the line from the foundation's materials. "By your story, not by us, by what you accomplished alone, by what every mother like you should have behind her." She was silent, absorbing this. "I see what you're doing," she said. "The work. It's good work, important work. The shelter in the Bronx. The bridge subsidies. It's smart. It's real." "Thank you," Josh said, the words feeling inadequate. "But," Emma continued, and her voice, while still quiet, became firmer, "this is for you, not for us." Josh met her gaze and held it. He did not look away. "I know," he said. "I'm trying to be a different person, not to earn something, not to buy a ticket back in, because it's the right thing to do." He saw a flicker of something in her eyes, surprise, perhaps, that he was not arguing, that he was agreeing with her. "You understand the difference?" she asked. "I do now," he said. "It took me a long time, and a very painful conversation on a sidewalk." Emma's jaw tightened at the memory, but she nodded. "The work is good, Josh, but it doesn't change our past. It doesn't change what you did." "I know that too," he said. "I'm not trying to change the past. I'm just trying not to be the man who made it anymore." Another long silence stretched between them. The noise of the successful gala felt galaxies away. Here, in this quiet side room, there was only the fragile, painful truth of their history. Emma looked at him for a long moment. Then she gave a single, slow nod. It was not forgiveness. It was not acceptance. It was a simple, stark acknowledgement. Asterisk. "I heard you." Without another word, she turned and walked back toward the entrance of the gallery. Mrs. Alvarez fell into step beside her, and they disappeared into the main hall. Josh stood alone, the echo of their conversation hanging in the air. For the first time, there had been no wall of security between them, no shouted accusations, just words, simple and heavy. She had seen his actions and had called them good, but she had also drawn a line in the sand so clear a child could see it. The good was for him. It did not belong to her or to their children. He set his untouched glass of water on the bar. The feeling inside him was complex. There was no victory. There was no relief. But there was a small, fragile sense that the ground had shifted. The vast, uncrossable distance between them was still there, but for the first time, it felt like a distance that could be measured, not an infinite void. And that, in its own painful way, was a beginning. A week after the gala, a thick, formal envelope arrived at Josh's apartment. It was not delivered by a regular mail carrier. A uniformed courier from a law firm handed it to him directly and waited for a signature. Josh's hands were not steady as he took it. The return address was from a firm in San Francisco he did not recognize. He opened it with a silver letter opener. Inside was a single sheet of heavy paper. It was not a letter. It was a document titled Proposed Structured Introduction Plan and Agreement. His eyes raced over the clinical, precise language. It was from the law firm of Vance Lowell, representing Emma L. Williams. The terms were listed in numbered paragraphs. 1. All communication regarding this matter would go through Mrs. Rosa Alvarez, acting as liaison. 2. If he agreed, he would be permitted one supervised introduction with the minor children, Olivia, Ava, Liam, and Noah Williams. 3. The introduction would last for one hour, no more. 4. The location would be a neutral, child-friendly venue chosen by Miss Williams. 5. Miss Williams would be present at all times. 6. A licensed child psychologist, Dr. Eliza Morgan, would also be present to observe and advise. 7. There would be no physical contact unless clearly initiated by a child. 8. He would not bring gifts of any kind. 9. This constituted a trial with no guarantees or promises of future contact. 10. Violation of any term would result in immediate and permanent terminations of contact. At the bottom, there was a line for his signature. Josh read it 3 times. The coldness of it, the legal barrier it erected, made his heart sink. This was not an invitation. This was a permit, a set of rules for viewing a family in a controlled environment. He thought of the giant stuffed giraffes he had sent. He thought of his letters. He thought of showing up at the school. He had forced this. He had backed her into a corner where her only options were a brutal legal war or this, a tightly managed clinical encounter. This was the consequence. This was what trusting him looked like to her. Rules, observers, and one single hour. He knew, with a certainty that hurt, that this was the only way. Daniel had been right. The lawyer had been right. He could not force or buy his way in. This was the door, and it was barely open a crack. He picked up his phone. He called Daniel. "Did you see the market close?" Daniel answered. "I need to step back from the firm," Josh said, cutting to the chase. "Indefinitely." There was a pause on the line. "What's happened?" "She sent a document, a plan, for me to meet the kids. Once. Under supervision. With a psychologist watching." Daniel let out a low whistle. "Okay, that's something." "It's everything," Josh said, his voice tight. "It's the only thing. I have to focus on this. Only this. I can't be distracted." "So you're just leaving the company?" "You're running it. You have been. You said you would. This is me making it official. I'll be available for major decisions. But my day-to-day, it's over. For now." Daniel was quiet for a moment. "Is this what you want?" "It's what I have to do," Josh said. "It's the first real choice I've made for them. And it's to say yes to her rules." "Then do it," Daniel said. "We'll be fine here. Go, be whatever you need to be for that hour." Josh signed the agreement. He scanned it and emailed it back to the law firm as instructed. He received a terse one-line reply. "Acknowledged. Details to follow." 2 days later, an email from Mrs. Alvarez arrived. It had no greeting. Asterisk, the introduction is scheduled for Saturday at 10 in the morning. The location is Playtime Junction, an indoor playground at 1124 Harrison Street, San Francisco. You will arrive no earlier than 9:45 and no later than 9:55. You will wait in the designated Parents Cafe area. Dr. Morgan will meet you there. Do not approach Miss Williams or the children. They will arrive separately. Follow Dr. Morgan's lead. The morning of the meeting, Josh dressed in the simplest clothes he owned, plain khaki pants and a soft gray sweater. He looked in the mirror. He did not look like a billionaire. He looked like a nervous man. He arrived at Playtime Junction at 9:50. It was a bright, noisy place, full of colorful plastic tubes, ball pits, and slides. The smell of popcorn and cleaning solution hung in the air. His heart was pounding so hard he could feel it in his throat. He found the Parents Cafe, a section with small tables and chairs. He sat down. He did not get a coffee. He just waited. At exactly 10 o'clock, a woman with kind eyes and a calm smile approached his table. She wore jeans and a blazer. "Mr. Carter, I'm Dr. Eliza Morgan." They shook hands. Her grip was firm. "Thank you for agreeing to this process," she said. Her voice was professional but not cold. "My role today is to facilitate a safe, low-pressure environment for the children. I will intervene if I sense any distress. Do you have any questions before we begin?" "What should I do?" Josh asked, his voice barely above the noise of the playground. "Be quiet. Be calm. Let them lead. Answer their questions simply and honestly. Do not ask them personal questions. Do not try to parent them. You are a new adult in their space. That is all." He nodded, swallowing hard. Dr. Morgan looked toward the entrance. "They're here." Josh looked. Emma walked in, holding Ava and Olivia by the hand. Liam and Noah walked just behind her, their eyes wide as they took in the playground. Emma looked tense. She wore jeans and a sweatshirt. She met Josh's eyes across the room and gave a brief, unreadable nod. Then she looked at Dr. Morgan. Dr. Morgan stood up. "Okay, Mr. Carter, come with me. Let's go to a quieter corner of the play area." Josh followed her to a spot near a low play structure with a small slide. There were some soft blocks and mats on the floor. Emma brought the children over. The children stared at Josh. They clung to Emma's legs for a moment. Emma knelt down. Her voice was gentle but matter-of-fact. "This is Josh. He is going to play here near us for a little while today." 4 pairs of eyes, his own eyes, studied him with intense curiosity. There was no smile, no wave, just assessment. Liam, the bravest, took half a step forward. "Do you really look like us?" he asked, his small voice clear. Josh knelt down too, getting to their level, as Dr. Morgan had subtly suggested. His throat was tight. "Yes," he said, "I do." "Why?" Ava asked, peeking from behind Emma's knee. "That's just how it happened," Josh said, keeping it simple. The children seemed to accept this. The novelty of the playground was a stronger pull. After a moment of staring, Liam turned and ran toward the slide. Noah followed him. Olivia and Ava glanced once more at Josh, then at their mother. Emma gave them a small, encouraging nod. They drifted toward a play kitchen set. For the next 40 minutes, Josh sat on the floor near the play structure. He did not move toward them. He watched them play. He laughed when Liam did a silly dance at the bottom of the slide. He nodded when Ava showed him a plastic cake from the kitchen. Once, Olivia brought him a plastic cup of tea. He took it carefully and said, "Thank you." He took a pretend sip. She grinned and ran back to her sister. He answered a few more questions. "Do you have a car?" "Yes." "What color is it?" "Black." "Do you like slides?" "I do." His answers were short and true. He did not try to extend the conversation. He just was there. Emma watched from a bench a few feet away. She did not play with the children. She observed. She watched Josh. Her expression was guarded, but the sharp edge of anger was gone. It was replaced by a watchful, weary caution. Dr. Morgan moved quietly around the periphery, making notes on a small pad. "At 5 minutes to 11, Doctor." Morgan caught Emma's eye. Emma stood up. "Okay, explorers, 5 more minutes, then it's time to go." The children moaned, but they listened. They began a last frantic round of play. At 11 o'clock exactly, Emma called them. "Time's up! Say goodbye!" The children gathered their things. They lined up by Emma. They looked at Josh. "Goodbye, Josh," Olivia said, polite as if dismissing a teacher. "Bye," said Ava softly. "Bye," said Liam, already looking toward the exit. Noah just waved, a small flick of his fingers. "Goodbye," Josh said to each of them. "It was nice to meet you." Emma shepherded them toward the door. She did not look back at Josh. Dr. Morgan stayed behind for a moment. "That went as well as it could have," she said to Josh. "They were curious but not afraid. You followed the guidelines perfectly. I will be in touch with Miss Williams, and she will decide the next steps, if any. Do not contact her. She will contact you through the proper channels if and when she is ready." Josh nodded. He was exhausted, emotionally raw. He watched through the large front window as Emma buckled the children into their car seats in the black SUV. She did not hurry. She was methodical. Then she drove away. The playground was suddenly very loud, the silence of his own company very deep. He sat back down at a small table, his limbs feeling heavy. The echo of their voices, "Do you really look like us?" played in his head. For the first time, the silence around him did not feel like an empty trophy. It felt like a space that had been occupied, however briefly, by the sound of 4 small, real lives. And in that quiet aftermath, there was a fragile sense that something, against all odds, had finally begun. 6 months later, the rhythm of Josh's life was new and unfamiliar. He lived in a modest 2-bedroom apartment in a quiet neighborhood of San Francisco. The view was of other apartments and trees, not skyscrapers. He could hear his neighbors sometimes, a family with a dog. He did not mind. His days had a structure. Mornings were for the Williams Foundation. He had a small, functional office downtown, where he worked with Anya Sharma via video calls. They were expanding the bridge subsidy program to 2 new cities. The work was detailed, often frustrating, and deeply satisfying in a way no corporate merger had ever been. In the afternoons, he often had a video call with Daniel. "The quarterly numbers are strong," Daniel said, his face on the screen. "The board is happy. A little confused about your semi-retirement, but happy." "Good," Josh said. "How's the weather out there?" "It's fine. How are things there?" Daniel smiled a little. "Same as ever. Just more of me doing the talking in meetings. It's exhausting." He paused. "How are things on your end?" "Slow," Josh said, which was the truth. "But they're things." Once a week, he drove across the city to see Dr. Levin, his therapist. The sessions were still hard. "I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop," Josh said in one session. "I keep waiting for Emma to change her mind, to say, 'That's enough.'" "And if she does?" Dr. Levin asked. "Then that's what happens," Josh said, after thinking about it. "It's her choice. I can only control what I do." "That's a significant shift," Dr. Levin noted. The most important part of his schedule happened once every 2 weeks. A text message would arrive from Mrs. Alvarez with a time and a location. A park, a children's museum, a library story hour. The rules were still strict. Emma was always there. Sometimes Dr. Morgan observed from a distance. Sometimes it was just Emma, watching with a careful, quiet focus. Josh prepared for these meetings like they were the most important work of his life. He did not plan grand activities. He learned to simply be present. He brought a soccer ball one time, a box of sidewalk chalk another. Simple things that were for sharing, not for giving. Today's text said, Dolores Park, 2 p.m. South Playground. He arrived early. He sat on a bench near the swings. The sky was clear. Families were everywhere. He watched them, no longer with a feeling of exclusion, but with a quiet observation. Emma arrived right on time. The children ran ahead of her toward the play structure. "Stay where I can see you," she called after them. She walked to a bench a good distance from Josh's and sat down. Mrs. Alvarez stood nearby, leaning against a tree, more relaxed than Josh had ever seen her. The children saw Josh. They didn't run to him. They didn't ignore him. It was a familiar routine now. "Hi, Josh," Olivia said, as she passed him to get to the monkey bars. "Hi, Olivia," he said. Ava gave him a small smile. Liam was too focused on the climbing wall to say anything. Noah waved quickly before chasing his brother. For the next hour, Josh moved around the edge of their play. He pushed Ava on a swing when she asked. "Higher?" she asked. "Is this okay?" he asked, looking over at Emma. Emma gave a single nod. He pushed a little higher. Ava laughed. Olivia ran up to him, breathless. Watch me do the spinny bar." He watched as she grabbed a bar and spun around. She let go and landed on her feet, arms raised. "Ta-da!" "That was great," Josh said, and he meant it. He saw Emma watching this from her bench. She was not smiling, but her face was not hard. It was thoughtful. She said something to Mrs. Alvarez, who nodded. As the hour wound down, Emma stood and called, 5 more minutes." The children began their final, energetic flurry of play. Noah and Liam were racing down a small hill near the playground. As Noah ran, his foot caught on a tree root. He tumbled forward with a cry, landing hard on the wood-chipped ground. He lay still for a second, then let out a sharp, hurt wail. Emma was already moving, but she was farther away. Josh was closer. Noah scrambled to his feet, crying loudly, and ran, not toward Josh, but past him, straight to Emma. He buried his face in her leg, sobbing, "My knee! It hurts!" Emma knelt down immediately, her voice soft. "Let me see, sweetheart. Let me see." She examined his knee. There was a scrape, red and angry, with a little blood. "It's a tough one, buddy, but you're okay. We'll clean it up." She pulled a water bottle and a clean napkin from her bag. She poured water on the napkin and began to gently dab the scrape. Noah winced and cried harder. Josh stood a few feet away, his hands at his sides. He wanted to help. He wanted to say something, but he knew his place. He stayed back. Emma finished cleaning the scrape. She kissed the top of Noah's head. "All clean. See, you're so brave." Noah's sobs slowed to hiccups. He looked at his knee, then up at his mother. Then, still sniffling, he turned his head. His teary eyes found Josh. Noah didn't say anything. He just looked at him. Then, slowly, he lifted his hand away from Emma and held it out, palm up, in Josh's direction. It wasn't a reach. It was an invitation. Josh froze. He looked at Emma. Emma met his gaze. For a long moment, she just looked at him. Then, she gave a slight, almost imperceptible nod. Josh walked over slowly. He did not try to pick Noah up. He knelt on the ground a few feet away, getting to the boy's level. "That looks like a tough one," Josh said softly, echoing Emma's words. Noah sniffled and nodded, his lower lip trembling. He didn't move from Emma's side, but he kept his hand outstretched. Josh didn't take the hand. He just looked at the scraped knee. "I used to get those all the time." "You did?" Noah asked, his voice thick with tears. "Yes, they sting a lot, but your mom did a good job cleaning it. It will feel better soon." Noah looked at his knee again, then finally lowered his hand, putting it back on Emma's arm. The moment passed. Emma stood up, lifting Noah onto her hip. "Okay, team, time to go. Say goodbye." The other 3 children, who had been watching the whole scene, gathered around. "Bye, Josh," they said one after another. "Bye," Josh said. "See you next time." He watched as Emma carried Noah, with the other 3 walking beside her, back to the path that led to the parking lot. At the edge of the park, Noah, still resting his head on Emma's shoulder, looked back. He didn't wave. He just looked. Then they turned the corner and were gone. Josh remained on the bench as the late afternoon sun warmed the park. The playground was still full of sounds, but his world had quieted. He thought about the outstretched hand, the slight nod, the look back. He knew he might never get the forgiveness he once craved. His children might never call him Dad. He would likely always be Josh, a quiet man who showed up sometimes to play. He had no claim to their lives, only the permission to be at the edges, granted slowly and cautiously by the woman he had hurt. The old Josh would have seen this as a failure, a half measure. The new Josh understood it was everything. It was more than he deserved. It was the consequence of his choices, and it was also the fragile possibility of something different. He had spent his life building towers to escape the past. Now, he was doing the slow, hard work of building a path through it. There were no grand finishes, no dramatic reconciliations. There was only the next right step, the next park visit, the next quiet moment. The work of becoming a man who could be trusted with a scraped knee and a child's tentative, outstretched hand. He stood up from the bench, and began the walk back to his small apartment, carrying with him the weight of his past and the faint, steady hope that came from finally walking in the right direction. One slow, deliberate step at a time.